Yo, what's up, everyone? Today we got a legendary guest in the building. Y'all know who it is. We got Mr. Grow It. Let me get him on screen. Let me get him on screen.
Hey,
There we go. There
what's
he
going
is.
on?
How you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Glad to have you today, man. I got a couple questions. Otherwise, we're gonna hang out, smoke a little bit. Just do your thing. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Not too long ago you were on my show, the Garden Talk show, and you
Yeah,
spit some
man.
really big gems. I'm gonna try to one up it, but I don't know. It was a tough one. That was a really good episode on the Garden Talk channel for sure.
Thank you, thank you. Glad to be there, bro. And honestly, sorry I stumbled a lot, bro. I was just nervous, but we can try again next time. I
Yeah.
got you. Oh yeah. But let's get into it, man. What got you into the whole wanting to be Mr. Grow It? Like what made you want to start committing to teaching, teaching growing to everybody?
Oh man. Well, I feel like it was back in like 2013 is when I started watching things on YouTube, watching people's grows on YouTube, and I was like, I didn't even realize it was allowed. I was like, how are they getting away with this? And
Hmm.
in what was it 2012 they started legalizing recreationally, and 2016 is when my state started legalizing, Nevada. Um, but 2015 is when I released my first video. So like from 2013, 2014, I was really kind of just watching content creators. I felt like I could add in some things. I also wanted to post videos in order to kind of get feedback from people. And so I started posting my first video in 2015, and then it just kind of took off from there, really. I mean, it just kept posting, got flooded with questions, started a website, a couple different podcasts, two different books. So yeah, it just
Hmm.
kind of snowballed from there.
And the books. Oh my God, the books. I still got to read the second one that you came out with. But bro, fucking knowledge in there. That is amazing, bro. Amazing work. Like, thank you, bro. I refer to your books, and the what is it? Who is the other one who wrote the book a long time ago?
Jorge
Yeah,
Cervantes.
yep, Cervantes.
Mm.
Him, the Anarchist Cookbook, and Mr. Grow It books. Those are the three books that you should have. Well, it's like four or five technically. But yeah, man, thank you for those. Those are amazing.
No problem, man. I'm
Um,
glad you liked it. Glad you got some knowledge out of it, because that was kind of what it was meant for. It was kind of a big inspiration. Jorge Cervantes was one of my inspirations. He
okay,
was one of the
okay.
ones where, you read his grower's Bible and it's just so thick. And me as a new grower, and I was like, 2012, I think I bought the book 2011, and I was only a year, 2 years in to growing. And I was like, I don't need to know all this stuff. What the heck? Why can't there be like something smaller, more condensed, more easier? And so he
Hmm.
was a big inspiration. That book in particular was a big inspiration for me to write my own book, something that's more kind of straight to the point, something that people can kind of be fresh off the streets, pick up and start to learn.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I love that. No, because like definitely his book is thick. All kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, he's got several
Um,
books, man. It's crazy what he's done.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Do you see gardening more as a science, an art, or a balance of both? And how does that reflect in your gardening style?
That's a good question, man. I like this question a lot. I really feel like it could be a little bit of all. Plus, I feel
Yeah.
like it could be a hobby as well. I take it more as a hobby for me. I like to grow and consume just for myself. I do have friends that come into town and some family members that consume. So I'll share with them and stuff like that. But I'm a hobby grower. You know what I mean? I'm playing around with a whole bunch of different ways to grow. So it's really a hobby for me. I could see how some people would take it as being an art, right? I know
Mm.
there's people who, a good example comes to mind is those guys who are doing
Oh yeah.
bonsai style growing cannabis. It's like
Mm.
that's an art, right? um,
100%.
and then as far as science, I mean, so many people are taking the science, just pushing it further and further and further, just trying to understand more factual information about how this plant grows. And so I could see, a little bit of all those things.
Okay. Okay. That's a good answer. I like that. Yeah. So what's a piece of advice that sounds counterintuitive but has always worked for you in your garden? And I asked that off of the step of the science, because science is always ever changing, right? And there's a lot of weird things that people have been saying that, oh man, this kills. Like, I remember when like the floss, that's a big one. When that came out, everybody was like, okay, okay, I see what you're doing there. But like during the whole step, they're like, I don't know about this. You know what I mean? So again, to refer back to the question that I asked, sorry, I rambled on for a little bit. A piece of advice that sounds counterintuitive, but has always worked.
Mm, I feel like being hands off is one of those things you hear people like, oh, leave it alone, let it grow, let it do its thing, right? And then as like if you're a newer grower, I mean, when I first started growing, I always want to be hands on. I was peeking in the tent every couple hours there, and I was looking at the seedling. I'm like, oh, the leaves are 30-degree angle now instead. You know what I mean? They slightly shifted. It's like
Yeah.
just over analyzing. Being hands off, I get a lot of feedback from people. Just kind of be hands off. Let the plant do its thing. Sure, you do have to monitor it, the lighting, environment, nutrition, all that stuff. There is work you have to do, but for the most part, be patient with it, and yeah, let it breathe.
I love it. Yeah, no, a lot of people do what is it, over loving, because they're constantly trying to be in there and do stuff and like, oh, maybe it needs some more water. And like, no, it didn't need any more water. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes new growers make is overwatering. They think it needs more water, but it doesn't. So
Mhm. So what's the hardest part about teaching gardening to a global audience with such a diverse conditions and challenges?
I feel like one of the more obvious ones is language barrier.
Okay.
Different people from all over the world tune into my content, but there's some people that just they don't understand English fully. A lot of people do translating, and they'll reply in the comment section with stuff that doesn't really make. It's not like a complete translation,
Mhm.
so it's hard to communicate with people sometimes. And then also, of course, being in different climates, right? I'm in one climate. I am in probably arguably a smaller climate. I'm in the desert region, and
Mhm.
it's very hot and dry here. Summertime, it's 100 degrees, June, July, August, every single day. And it's about 30% relative humidity. Wintertime, it gets even lower than that. It
Yeah.
gets in the teens for relative humidity.
Mhm.
So when I'm, filming my videos and talking within the videos, having the piece of equipment set up, with like humidifier is a good example, right? Tons of people all over the world need to run a dehumidifier instead of humidifier, right? Different
Mhm.
climate. So a lot of people will watch my content and they'll have takeaways, but what I'm doing might not apply to their conditions, their climate.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of one of the biggest challenges there.
Okay. Yeah, no, 100% see that. Like Minnesota need that DU. Here in Colorado, you need the humidifier. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Colorado gets really dry too.
You'll get that Colorado crumble, man. It's not it's not good. All right.
Mm.
So, how do you approach balancing high-tech equipment with natural hands-on gardening techniques?
How do I balance those two? Well, I still do the daily check-ins, right? I feel like,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, we're getting a lot more advanced with the grow equipment. I mean, when I
Yeah.
first started growing back in 2010, it was just like HPS. Your inline fan was on a variable speed controller, so you had to kind of tinker it in and get it
Mhm.
perfect. Now you've got controller 69 for
Yeah.
AC Infinity, for example. You plug in all your equipment, it automatically turns on and off as needed in order to dial in that perfect temperature and humidity. So yeah, it can be a lot easier to kind of be more hands off with things and balancing. You still want to obviously be in the garden, because if you're
Yeah.
just completely not in the garden at all, there's other mistakes you can run into, right? Pests could invade your grow space if you're not keeping an eye on things. Or
100%.
you could have a pest infestation. You come back a week later, and all of a sudden your garden's just in rough shape. Uh,
Hmm.
Obviously, nutrition as well is something that needs to be monitored. Now there's dosing, which is more in like the commercial facility side of things. I'm more on the home grower side of things. But yeah, you definitely still need to be hands on. So I still do my daily checks. I have kind of a standard routine that I go in there and look at. I start out by looking at the lights, making sure that the lights don't need to be adjusted. If I'm in like the veg stage or stretch period, maybe I do need to adjust the lights up, dial in the amount of power that's getting, double checking to make sure that the conditions are fine. My humidifier is full. Oscillating fans are still working. I've had one go out on me before. Lessons learned there. I also let's make sure the reservoirs are full, make sure the things need to be. So there's checks that I do every day in order to make sure I'm still kind of in line. So I'm still kind of hands-on. Of course, plant training is another thing that needs to be done. You can't just kind of be hands-off with that. Now you can let it grow naturally and don't do any training. But getting in there, doing the training, it does have its benefits.
100%, 100%. Yeah, no, I just you can't not train your plant. I've seen that a couple times. A couple people just let them ride, and they just no, just no.
I've done it for fun, man. I did it back in the day, dude. It was so fun. Just let some plants grow naturally, train some plants, and kind of compare the differences. Right when you're new, you're having fun with things. It is fun. It can make things kind of more entertaining in the grow space. And actually, it was just probably, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, I did a grow with no training at all, just for content, really. And big buds, man. That main cola that comes up, that one main cola kind of dominates.
Spears, bro. Yeah.
It's Coke can style, right? So it's kind of cool to see that every now and then. But you've got that risk of bud rot, which can happen for sure.
Yeah, I see. I'm a big fan of the really big colas, like those giant spears and stuff, like for photos, like just to like take a picture of it, like it's fun to have. But and like the end game, I prefer like the smaller nugs, like they just you don't have to deal with the bud rot as much. You're curing this like. Your dry time is better because you don't have to worry about it, keeping all that moisture locked in your center, and then that's where your bud rot's coming from. No, yeah.
Good point.
Sorry.
I feel like some of those bigger ones are, it's kind of subjective, kind of less density. I like the density and having those smaller buds, definitely, I feel like contributes to density as well. Makes it nice.
Yeah. So how has building a global garden community through your channel and podcast changed your perspective on the industry? Like when you started from now?
Well, actually kind of back then I knew some of the things that was going to happen. I knew that innovation was going to happen. I knew that there were so many pieces of equipment that could be created that would make things easier for the gardener. One of the big mentions there was kind of the oscillating fan that clips onto the side of the grow tent. I actually linked up with, back in 2017, I linked up with the owner of VivoSun at MJ BizCon, and I let him know what the idea was. And he went and he ran with it and he innovated and he released it. And of course, other companies released one. AC Infinity has one. There's a handful of companies that now have that clip-on grow tent fan. But that's just one thing that makes it a lot easier, right? It saves space. Before, people were having box fans in there. People had the fans that mount on walls. They had to put them on a board. I've done it before, and I kind of have it hanging on the side of the grow tent. You had to jimmy rig something. So that's one innovation. The humidifiers that link up directly into the grow tent. Now they've got a AC Infinity has the air conditioner that goes to ducting directly into the tent. Yep. I knew a lot of this stuff was going to become automated. I didn't think it was going to be this quick. Nowadays we've got the dry boxes, which I think is the next big wave of things to happen, right? Yeah. Canatrol, they've been kind of dominating for the past 5 years or whatever. They're the only ones that have a dry box, which does a good job. It's just too expensive, right? It's $1,600 for a small box the size of a
shiny fridge, though. It's right? Shiny.
Now, word on the street, there's a couple different companies that are working on a dry box, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. And so it's only a matter of time. Once that price point gets down, more consumers are going to be buying it. And there's going to be more people using a grow box to dry than a traditional grow tent soon. May not be in the next 2-3 years, but 5-10 years down the line, almost everybody's going to be using a dry box. So yeah, as far as where I started to where it is now, there's been a lot of innovation. And another thing that's kind of gone on the rise is the amount of scams and snake oil products.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
It is so bad now. That's one thing I didn't foresee actually happening, but so many impersonator scammers on all these different platforms. That's something that really makes the industry kind of look bad. Although that is something that's happening throughout all industries, really.
Mm. Sorry about that. That actually brings me to one of my questions, the previous statement, not that one. The Canatrol and all that. So what is your actual thoughts on that? Do you feel like using that Canatrol is better than the traditional methods, or no?
I mean, I think it's so. I think it's a more controlled drying experience. Now, some people are going to swear that they have very stable conditions in a grow tent.
Mm.
But what I mean by conditions is the temperature and the humidity, or some people
Yep.
go by dew point now, right?
Yeah.
Um, so having that stable conditions, what we found out, latest science is saying is that the trichomes, due to pressures, outside pressures, they'll actually expand and retract. And what's happening is if you have large swings during drying,
Mm.
the trichomes burst. So it's very important to have very stable conditions. So if you can achieve that in a grow tent, great. But stability is the best way to go about it. Uh, Going from where it is as far as moisture level, fresh harvest off the plant, slowly bringing that down. Not too slow though, because you don't want to have molds occur, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So generally they're saying between 5 and 10 days to have it down to a shelf stable product.
Hmm.
Shelf stable is a 0.6 water activity. That is where microbial growth really comes to a crawl, almost non-existent. And yeah, that's a way to prevent molds, but not drying too quickly to where you get that kind of hay smell and like
Yep.
the bad consuming experience, you know.
Hmm.
But no,
Yeah.
overall, I do like the Canatrol. I don't like the price. I don't like I don't like all like the feature. Like there's some outdated. Like there's no app to control, right? So like, why
Oh,
isn't there
sure.
an app?
Yeah.
If it has like a little sponge in it that you got to keep wet. If it dries out, I live in a dry climate, like I said, it just everything will become dry so quick, and there's no alert, no notification that I can get. I literally have to like walk in here and look at the box to see whether or not it needs the sponge
Mm.
needs to be wet. So like there's things like that which I really wish they were innovative towards, which it doesn't really seem like that company is very innovative towards making that product better, which is kind of unfortunate. I wish they had more people on their team kind of trying to make it better with an app or doing some sorts of improvements with it, because nothing's really changed with it since it's gone out. And like I was saying before, it's only a matter of time for other companies come in here and kind of overrun it, with a cheaper product and a better product.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, so in all, your all understanding is that you feel like the dry and the taste, like everything would be better with the Canatron.
It's solid, man. For me, it's so subjective, right? I don't have testing to kind of back things up, and I would honestly say it's probably about equal as far as like if you do a 60-60 dry in a tent and bring it down to shelf stable, and then go put in the Scanatrol and bring it down to shelf stable, you can have a very similar product,
Okay.
So now as far as storage, that's another thing that's good with the Canatrol is it's storage as well, so you can keep it in there and it keeps it at that same level. When you're done drying in a grow tent, well, what do you need to do? You need to put it in jars, and you need to find a way to make sure that the conditions are consistent within that jar, whether it be a humidity pack or having it, in the bags that automatically burp itself, the Grove bags or whatever, right? You need to figure out the next steps. With the Canatrol, you can just keep it in there. So that's one thing that makes it easy. But as far as the end product, yeah, very, very similar. Testing, according to them, is 16% higher terpenes with Canatrol versus traditional 60-60 methods. So, but that data is coming from them. So,
So
yeah.
what's your go-to strategy for maintaining your VPD in your grow space?
Man, it's so automated these days, dude, with the controller. I
Yeah.
just have a humidifier and I have the controller 69. I also have a controller AI.
Okay.
And I just set it to my humidifier to be the VPD target of 0.8 if I'm in veg or
Okay.
1.2 if I'm in flower. So basically, my humidifier is going to turn on and off as needed in order to
Mhm.
achieve that VPD.
Okay.
So
So
it's a
like on
lot
the
more
system you're
automated now
running.
than ever.
Okay. So like on the system you are running just a VPD setting. You're not doing like a scheduled setting.
No, I do VPD. It's Target. I'm not sure if Target is only an option on the AI Plus or if it's an option on the Controller 69 as well. They're always updating their interface, but um, but
Yeah.
you
No.
should Target. I do, yeah, Target for the humidifier. That way it turns on as needed, and
Okay.
then my exhaust fan is set to temperature high. It'll kick on whatever I set it
Okay.
to. Usually it's about 80 degrees, sometimes lower than that. I have it set to. So when the lights come on and the grow space heats up, well, once it reaches that set point, the exhaust will kind of kick on, or above the set point, the exhaust will kick on, get some fresh air in there. Meanwhile, the humidifier is working to increase that increase that humidity, and then it's pretty friggin' stable, dude. It's so stable now compared to what it used to be.
Oh yeah. So you wouldn't be running your shit like one's fighting the other, or is it just staying stable? Like, is your shit constantly running? Is more or less my question.
No, because another thing that helps contribute to it is automated watering systems. As crazy as this sounds,
Okay. I
Blue
was about
Mat
to ask.
being
Yep.
able to have that moisture in the medium and the plant's transpiring, that
Hmm.
increases the humidity in the grow space. That's a
Yep, yep.
huge win for me. It's something you don't really expect. I go from hand watering, I hand water in veg, for example, then I install Blue Mats, and now I'm adding stuff into my humidifier like once every 3-4 days versus every day I was adding something in. So yeah, just having the automated watering in there as well, and the plant's transpiring, that's increasing the humidity. So yeah, it is pretty dialed in. It is pretty set it and forget it, at least for me.
Okay, that kind of answered my next question about automation. And Blue Mat, you ever done Blue Mat is the fucking the drip, right?
Yeah, the
Okay.
carrot system.
Yep. Okay. I just wanted to double check. You ever try what is it? Butt chugging? Fucking coming from the bottom. You know what I'm talking about? Bottom wicking or
Yeah,
whatever.
bottom watering, butt
Yeah,
chugging,
water.
people
Yeah,
call it.
yeah, all kinds of different things. Yeah.
Dude, I
You ever
like
try that?
bottom watering, just mostly randomly. Uh, if I'm coming across a fungus gnat problem,
Hmm.
watering from the bottom and letting that top medium dry out a little bit it can be helpful.
Yep, yep.
The auto pot system I ran several times, that's a bottom wicking system, right? So yeah, I'm for it. I definitely like. I've had some good success doing just bottom watering only.
Hell yeah. Do you feel like you get a better growth out of bottom watering or top watering?
I don't know. I think I could probably get equal growth, to be honest. There's
Okay.
so many variables. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. That was a good answer. That was a
Yeah,
good
it's
answer,
hard
dude.
to.
Like,
I really
yeah,
can't swing one way or the other on that one.
it depends. Love it. Oh man. So what's we skipped roughly over your training, like training and pruning. What is your ideal for training and pruning techniques for your maximum growth, your maximum yield?
Okay, so to maximize yield,
Hmm.
I would probably top the plant at either the fourth or fifth node. I'd start with that. Then I'd let those side branches kind of grow up as much as possible and use low stress training to kind of bend those branches down and widen the plant as much as possible. I want the plant to be as wide and flat as possible. So constantly tying branches down to the side of the grow pot, for example. And then when a branch comes up, starts to dominate, pulling that down. Uh, that's kind of the main thing. And then lollipopping would be removing either the lower quarter or lower third part of the plant, all the growth, and then any of those branches that aren't going to make it up to the top with the other branches, right? Some will be branches will be lagging behind. So
Yep.
I remove those. Now, as for defoliating, what I typically do is try to push it off to the latest point possible.
Okay.
Sometimes it depends on genetics, right? So sometimes I'll have very bushy structures that I'm going to need to defoliate in veg at some point,
Mhm.
right? It's just the lack of airflow throughout the canopy is not a good thing. So I'm defoliating most of the time once before I flip to flower. Now there are other genetics out there that are kind of longer, stretchier, not as leafy.
Mhm.
Those ones I've gotten away with not doing any defoliating at all in veg or in flower. Just doing the topping and low stress training because there's so much gappage between the nodes there that airflow isn't really compromised. But if I have some genetics that are real leafy, like I mentioned, I'll defoliate. I'll look to defoliate in flower during the stretch period. Yeah, I'll check on like day 7, day 14, and day 21 is usually the latest I'll actually defoliate, and that's usually when stretching is done. Now, if I have a longer flowering strain, like if I'm working with like a 12-weeker or something, and I'm getting a 4-week stretch out of it instead of just like a 3-week stretch, for
Yeah.
example, then I can push a little bit longer when it comes to defoliation. I'll defoliate, the latest would be day 28 usually. So it really depends on genetics and growth for how I'm doing that. But yeah, long story short, topping at the 4th or 5th node, low stress training, trying to get that plant as wide and flat as possible, then let it grow up and just letting it max out that growth space, really.
Okay, okay. You ever try like mainlining or schwazzing like any of those other
Swazing,
techniques?
no. I haven't gotten that aggressive with it. I've, always kind of been scared to do it. I know there is not a main reason to be scared, although I have seen some videos where they went overboard. And it was actually kind of funny and it was sad at the same time because some people take this advice, they strip down their plants to bare naked,
Mm,
after they have flipped to flower, and then they barely get any stretch and they barely get any flowers off of it. So you can really do some harm on that avenue.
okay.
Mainlining, I'm not patient enough for mainlining, like a true mainline where
Yeah.
every single branch is even. Uh, I did my kind of variation of it to where I would let it grow up to the third node, top of the third node, keep the second node, remove the first node, and then I would let those grow up and kind of top them one more time and let them go. But that's not like a true mainline because you've got kind of multiple nodes going on there. So
Yeah.
yeah, both of those techniques I haven't really dove deep into, to be honest.
All right. All right. So how about CO2? How do you approach monitoring and controlling your CO2 levels in your garden? And what's the ROI of doing so?
Yeah, so CO2 is one of those things where I don't really do much anymore. I've played
Okay.
around with the TNB natural canisters. I've played around with the CO2 mushroom bags, and I have a CO2 monitor that I would put in the tent and kind of look and see if things are elevated or not, the levels are elevated or not. And I'd go in there and it'd be a hit or miss. Sometimes it would be elevated 8, 9, 1,000 ppm. Other times I'd go in there and be 500. And so it's like,
Okay.
how well are these products working? So I've stopped using them. I stopped using the TNB Naturals canisters. I stopped using the CO2 mushroom bags. I know there's shout out to Shane from My Grow. He did a video on the mushroom bags and just showed that for him, it just didn't work at all. Nothing. So, uh,
Yeah.
how much that actually you get on a return on investment, I can't speak to that at all. I haven't had the chance. I haven't really needed to use any of the CO2 tanks. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So it's like me being a small home grower, I grow 6 to 12 plants. I live in the house that I'm growing in. I exhale CO2.
Yeah. Yeah.
My fiance exhales CO2. My daughter, my cat, right? So every
Yeah.
time I go in there right now, I still have a CO2 monitor. It's like 800, 7, 800. And that's just naturally without doing any sort of supplementation. So it's a little bit elevated compared to our outdoors, 450 roughly.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about half, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. I know there are studies out there that if you increase it to 1,400 ppm of
Mm,
CO2 in the flowering stage, you can get a 30% increase in yield. I
yep.
just don't need to do that. So, man, that's
Okay.
just me.
Okay. Okay. I'm mad at it. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Shit. All right. So last one. No, not last one. The last one out of this list. Sorry. Oh snap. Hold on. Hey Ames, would love to be able to download a copy of Mr. Crow's. I'm fucking. I'm dead.
Yeah, I was reading that one too.
Yeah. I love it. Nah. That threw me off, man. Oh, have you experienced with any of those vertical grow systems? If so, what's your biggest takeaway from it?
No, not at
No,
all. No.
no.
I've seen
Yeah.
I've seen like Kyle Cushman doing something on it. I don't know if you follow him or not, but he's
Hmm.
got something going on Instagram, and I don't know. I I don't really want to play around with that right now.
Oh, come
Maybe in
on,
the
man.
future. I don't know.
Those seem really cool. Like, or I've always thought about doing as an old idea. Like everybody's probably thought about it, but you remember back in the day how Topsy Turvy had these bags that would you can take your tomato plant and it would grow from the bottom of the bag, and you hang your bag from the ceiling, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I want to do that. I want to do that little test, but with our favorite little medicinal plant. See what happens. See if that gravity helps pull all the nutrients down into that while the plant is going. Just a lot of great weird thoughts. Just want to know if you've ever tried any of those. Yeah.
No, no. The closest thing to vertical that I've tried actually was my buddy of mine that had tried, but I was kind of helping him with the grow. Was the vertical bulbs, having the HPS
Okay.
bulb hanging vertically,
Yeah.
and then having the plants around it. You know what I mean? Instead of kind of
Okay.
light top down. So that was kind of a lot of people used to do that back in the day, but
Yeah.
I don't really see anybody doing that anymore.
Hang on. I'm gonna try that. Oh, I love experiments, man. Constantly doing it. I ruined multiple grows just off of somebody. Hey, you should try this. Oh man, that's a great idea. Instantly destroyed the grow. Yeah. Um. All right. So, what is your process for determining the perfect harvest window beyond just checking your trichromes? Trichromes.
So checking the trichomes, a lot of people do that, right? It's clear, cloudy, amber. I mostly do mostly cloudy with some sprinkle of amber in there, maybe 10% of amber, and then I'm
Mhm.
harvesting. But I'm also looking at the plant and seeing the stigmas, right? Those hairs that come up.
Mhm.
How many have changed colors and receded, right? If it's, I know some people say 90% need to be it turned color to the brown and then have receded. Some people say 85. Some people
Yep, that's what
have
I have.
higher than that. Some people looking for every single hair to be change colors and receded, which sometimes that's just not the case. You're not able to get to 100%.
Mhm.
Those are the things I kind of look at, though, is really just looking at the hairs and looking to see, obviously, the harvest window. Is it within the harvest window? I'm also looking to see if there's any nanners coming out, so the male anthers coming out. Because if it gets to that point and you're past the harvest window, well, then that's just the plant, just one last ditch effort trying to reproduce, right? And
Mhm.
unfortunately, once that anther comes out of the bud, it's already released pollen. So unfortunately, if you have other flowers in the grow space, other plants in the grow space, they could have potentially gotten pollinated. Most likely, they did get pollinated at least a little bit. So I am always looking for that as also an indication of whether or not the plant needs to be harvested. So yeah, mostly just the hairs on it and seeing if there's any nanners in there. And is it within the harvest window? Does it look like it stopped swelling, or does it look like it's still growing? Those are the things that I'm looking at besides just trichome color.
Okay. And so, how do you balance your energy efficiency with the optimal light intensity in your grows? I was going to ask that, but I asked this other question first.
Yeah, lighting, man, it's gotten more and more efficient over the years, and it's good to see the energy bill go down.
Mhm.
One of the things I do, I'm fortunate enough to have a par meter. So I'm able to actually dim down my grow lights, bring them nice and close, and then use a par meter to make sure I'm getting the efficient amount of optimum amount of par that I like to get. So that is a way that I kind of balance the energy with the par output, is really just dimming lights down. Sometimes I'm actually able to dim down to 40% on these lights,
Hmm.
and I've actually gone through flowering at like 50 and 60%. I'm talking about the AC Infinity Evo lights.
I was
And I've
about to
been able to
say.
achieve, if you get the par meter and you dial it down, I'm still able to achieve the amount of par that I'm aiming for. I usually go for 600 to 900 ppfd in flowering. I usually, 800, 900 usually where I'm at. I know some people go more than that. If you supplement CO2, you can go more than that. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's usually the range I'm sticking around, just to kind of safe side it. I have so many grows where I just get burned it with too much light, and all of a sudden you get the crispiness, the burning of the leaves at the top, and then you got to back off the lights, and those leaves don't recover, and then you get foxtailing to happen because it's too much heat. So it's like I like to play it safe these days. I don't care if it's a little bit less yield, right? Because obviously light is energy and that's contributing towards the growth. So if you're not maximizing that to its full potential, then you're leaving yield on the table a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm able to hit the plants with about 900 ppfd, not burn the plants, still get dense bud structure. As long as I control the heat, I'm able to have no foxtailing happening. And yeah, it's a pretty decent bag appeal there too.
Hmm. Oh yeah. Okay. So if your plants can talk, right? What do you think they'd say about your garden?
Oh man, if they could talk, huh?
Yeah.
I think they would say that things are stressful at times. But overall, I think they'd say they're happy with the way they're treated. You know, I
Yeah.
give them the daily check-ins, like I talked about earlier. So I'm checking to make sure there's no pests on them. I think they're happy about that, right?
Mhm.
I don't think they're happy about the amount of stress I put them through sometimes with just the amount of training, pruning, the defoliation, all that stuff, bending them down, all that stuff. If there's a nutrient deficiency that pops up, I don't think they're happy with that. But yeah, I'm doing my best to try to just keep them healthy, keep them happy for the most part. So
Okay, okay. So what's your process for nutrient deficiencies, and how do you decide whether to amend your soil or just adjust the feeding schedule?
that's a really good question, man. Because I think everybody does a little bit differently.
Hmm.
So first of all, I'm looking at the plant. If I see an issue that's occurring, first thing I do is kind of look back at the log. I have a log that I just track things for each plant, top the plant head here, fed nutrients here. Here was if I'm feeding with synthetic nutrients. Here's the ppm and pH of the runoff. So I'm looking back at the log to see if there's anything in there that pops out. Hey, maybe I'm late on a feeding and it just needs to be fed, for example. Maybe if the pH is off, right? So I'm always checking the pH and the ppm of the soil runoff. Now, this is only if I'm coming across a problem with synthetic nutrients. That's what I'm doing with organics as well, though, right? And a lot of people are just completely hands off when it comes to pH and ppm or EC. But if I personally am coming across an issue, it looks like a deficiency, and I feel like there is enough nutrition in the medium, I don't think it hurts to check the pH and ppm of the medium to see, hey, is the pH off? Maybe I do make an adjustment. Maybe we just can't access the nutrients because the
Like
pH is off. So
like a
that's
slurry
mainly what I'm
test?
doing
Yeah.
is pH,
Okay.
ppm, EC, and also moisture content is another thing to kind of mention because if things are too dry, if you're growing organically, for example, things are too dry, well, I've come across deficiencies then. There's just not that breakdown that's happening. You top dress the nutrients, all of a sudden the top layer dries out. Well, those nutrients aren't being broken down, so the plant's exhibiting deficiencies. So that's happened to me. So I do look to make sure that there is moisture content in the medium as well.
Okay. 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 That was good. That was a good answer, man. Dang. I knew you were going to come with the heat, man. I had to give some good questions. So there it is. What we were talking about your channel and like your the community and stuff, right? Where do you see the indoor gardening community heading in the next 5 years, and how do you see your role shaping it?
I think there's going to be more innovation. There's been a lot of innovation, like we talked about earlier, but I think there's going to be more innovation, automation, a lot more automation as well. I think for a lot of folks, being hands off in the garden is a goal. Right? Our time's very valuable. Some people love to be in the garden. I love to be in the garden every day.
Mhm.
Some people hate to be in the garden. They just want the harvest. We just smoke buds at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So making things easier for them by automating, I think that's going to continue on here in the future. I think, like I said earlier, there's going to be more brands releasing the dryers, more people going from tent drying to box drying. I personally hope to continue to put out content documenting what I'm doing. I say hope because you never know what's going to happen in the future, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
5 years from now is a long time, right? Sadly, the industry could be turned upside down for all we know, you know.
yeah.
Uh, so I hope to be putting out more, continue to put out content, kind of documenting what I'm doing in my garden, and then podcasting as well. Kind of being able to sit down with people one on one, just real knowledgeable people just like you, and
Yeah.
talking on a daily basis. Well, not daily, but on a weekly basis. Being
Okay.
able to release content on a weekly basis and be able to bring the value to the audience. So that's kind of where I see the community going in the next 5 years, and kind of how what I see my contributions to it.
Hell yeah. So, is there any skill that you'd say you picked up from your YouTube journey? Like the YouTube, not necessarily the like the grow or anything, but the
No
whole
gardening.
journey. Yeah, no gardening.
Mm.
The journey of YouTube. Have you learned something like super crazy that, you just felt like, damn, why didn't I think of this earlier or something?
Um, I don't know. I don't know on that level. I can definitely say filming and editing has gotten a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Being able to be better with the camera, learning what exposure is and what ISO is, and being able to dial things in to try to make the picture better. I think I've done a good job at learning that over time. That doesn't then not that's not in the garden, right?
Yeah,
Editing
yeah.
side of things, learning Adobe Premiere Pro, and being able to just push myself to kind of make the episodes kind of just a little bit more entertaining each time. Always
Oh,
trying to bring value in the form of information, but there's entertainment involved in content as well, right? So I think that is one thing I've kind of learned is how to film better, how to edit better, doing this whole YouTube journey.
hell yeah. Hell yeah. Real quick question. What we got? What is foxtailing from light? Uh, so normally your bud when it's being developed, right? It'll be structured either like a Christmas tree. You have golf balls. There's a couple different like actual shapes and shit. And then when you're burning your plant, is what's happening is you're making it to where it can't fully develop. So it starts to get like sticks. Like literally they look like little rods. Or you can just Google foxtails and that's what your weed will start looking like. Like literally like a foxtail. Like a fucking like a turd. It's the best way I can
Little
explain
towers of buds, yeah,
it.
on
Yeah.
top of the buds is pretty much what it is. And
And it just stacks vertically.
usually it's due to the heat, but it can
Mhm.
also be due to the light. And I think we talked about this on the Garden
Yeah.
Talk episode that we're on, right? It's like
It could
the
also
amount
be
of
genetics as well. Yep.
genetics, yeah, the amount of IR. So if you have a
Hmm.
grow light that has a lot of far red IR in it,
Yep.
it could actually contribute to foxtailing.
100%. Yeah. That's foxtailing. Hopefully that answered your question, bro. Um, where were we? Okay. So how do you stay grounded and connected to your plants amidst all of the pressure of the content creation? So amidst, fuck, I gotta make these videos and stuff like that. Like, oh, I gotta go, to this event. How do you care about your garden at the same time? Like, how do you make sure that the garden's good? What steps do you take to ensure that? Yeah.
I got to make it fun for myself, man. Honestly, I've got to do something in order to make it fun and make me want to be in the garden. And that's one of the reasons why I grow so many different ways. Right now, I have
Mm.
a living soil grow. I have 4 10-gallon containers that is just organic inputs
Oh,
with
dang.
cover crops, mulch layers, automated watering system. I have another tent that's grown with synthetic nutrients, and it's got a reservoir hooked up and blue mat carrots. I've got another tent which is DWC, deep water culture. I've got first time ever doing that actually, and
Oh,
that's
how's
been a
that?
blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's so easy. At
The
least
growth.
once
The
I
growth.
learn the initial things that you need to kind of keep an eye on, which is
Mm-hmm.
really just pH, water temperature, EC. Those are kind of
Mm-hmm.
the main things. Of course, there's lighting, environment. But if you can dial in those other three things that I just mentioned,
Yeah.
beautiful growth. I had some amazing growth on it. But yeah, being able to be connected to my plants just by finding reasons to want to be in the garden and growing a bunch of different ways and keep my mind stimulated, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's one way to keep it in the garden. I've never really had good success doing the same thing over and over again. I just get bored of it. And
Yeah.
to be honest, when I first started growing in 2010, I grew the same way for the first 6 years. Fox Farm Ocean Forest Soil and Fox Farm Nutrients and HPS lighting for the first 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
Dedication. Dedication.
Hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. That was kind of the way I went about it. Then I learned through YouTube that there are so many other ways to go about it. And that's when it just became so much more fun for me because I was able to try out all these different ways to do it. And still to this day, I'm able to try out different ways of doing it and change things up, even if it's just one or two things changed out each grow. I just started using those bud clips a grow or two ago. And those are fun for me, using those instead of using tie down. So there's little things here and there that really help me stay grounded and connected to plants. It really comes down to just trying to keep things fresh.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, no, I can't do the same thing over and over again. That's literally the definition of insanity. Can't do that. Is Mr. Grow It still working his strain? Yeah, pretty sure. That's what we're talking about in BizCon. Yeah.
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 And you got some too, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yep. So it's on F3 generation now. I started the F1s back in 2019 and then pheno hunted, went down to F2, pheno hunt, down to F3, pheno hunted. Now I'm down to F4. So the F4s are now in testing phase. And if you were one of the folks that ended up getting the genetics drop that happened on Black Friday, every single order got testers for free. So there are over 100 people now, 150 people that are testing that at least have their hands on testers. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to have the F4s released. If all's good, F4s will be released early this coming year, early 2025. So really excited for this. It's changed a little bit. Obviously, with the F1s, things are going to be all over the place, right? The kind of to back up the parents, we've got Brisker OG, which is a kind of a lengthy, big internodes, like your typical OG, kind of flops all over the place, real heavy, dense buds. And then you've got your Pakistan Valley, which is a small, squat plant. And
Shorty.
It's really kind of two different effects. So like when you're growing it, the F1 generation, you have some plants that are small, some plants that are tall, just all over the place. F2, it actually opens up the gene pool. You get even more of that.
Mm-hmm.
F3 kind of narrows down more to what I was looking for. And I did select for smaller plants at F3. So a lot of these folks that are growing out these F3s, they're smaller plants. It takes a long time to grow. They're real tight internodes, very leafy structure, but it's very, very, very dense bud structure amongst almost everything, depending on your grow conditions, though, right? That can obviously throw off the bud structure, but very frosty. For as far as taste and smell, you're looking at piney, earthy, and citrusy type. However, the F3s that I chose, the mother had a little bit more fruity sweet in it, and it also had a little bit more stretch to it. So it shouldn't be as squat as the F3s. So you should get a little bit more height on it. Should be a little bit more faster of a grower and veg. I know it was kind of a complaint of quite a few people. They're like, what's wrong with this plant? It's so much smaller than the other plants I'm growing in the grow tent. Well, the F3 generation has a bred for smaller spaces, bred to be smaller. And so the F4 is going to be a little bit different on that avenue. But the effects remain the same. The effects are still just a very laid back, euphoric. It makes me hungry. And it's not like super couch locked to where you're just stuck on the couch. You're still able to kind of get up and be active and go about your day. So yeah, F4 generation, hopefully it'll be released here in the upcoming months. And then I think I'm going to do a fem version of it. So I got to find a keeper of the F4 generation, then do fem it out.
Okay. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah.
But yeah, still work in progress. And I've got a couple other ideas in mind for things that I want to do. I started kind of working on other things, on a few other crosses, But it's just so much work, dude. The pheno hunting process,
So
you're a
long.
big
Yeah.
hunter.
It's
Takes a
so
long
long,
time.
dude, for a long time, and it could be a long time for fucking nothing too at the end. And
Right,
it's just,
right.
yeah,
I've had a handful of grows where it's like not finding what I'm looking for. Whoop, not finding
done.
what I'm looking for. Whoop.
Yep,
It's like, damn. But
it
hey,
is. Yeah,
I prefer to go about it in an ethical way because at the end of the day, my name's on it. And if
100%.
somebody gets it and they have a bad experience, I feel bad, you know?
Hmm.
So I want to make sure I go to the right steps and really make sure that, things are going to kind of flip and show intersex traits and stuff like that before releasing. So yeah, I try to do my due diligence as much as possible before releasing out to the public.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Thank you for that, bro. Honestly, I can't wait. It's gonna be sick. I'm gonna pop that. Real quick, this is the last question. What's your favorite strain to grow that's a balance between ease of growing and final product effect?
hmm. Um, let's see. Would it be cheating if I said my children cheated?
I love it.
No. Favorite strain to grow that was what? Can you repeat that?
That is easy to grow, and
Mm.
it still has a potent effect. Final
I'm gonna
product.
have to name off Queen Anne's Revenge by Subcool Seeds, formerly TGA Genetics. I think Miss Jill took over that since Subcool had passed on. Rest in peace. That has still one of my favorites. I'm currently hunting to try to find the keeper that I found back in 2017, I think it was. It was just
Yeah.
amazing, amazing plant. I am still hitting myself for not keeping that pheno. But basically, this plant was so beautiful. It's just I could sit here and talk about it in detail as long for the rest of the podcast here if we wanted to. But to summarize it, it was very easy to feed. It had slight magnesium deficiency in veg, but it was super easy to pop out of that. Uh, Super vigorous in growth. It was dense, frosty from top to bottom. Even those little lower buds that often end up being larf, they were rock hard, frosty. Um,
Okay.
it was when it grew in flowering, it started changing color to purple. It was very dark purple. It started from the top, and every single day I look at it, and it would just transform its way down the plant, little bit by little bit. And I actually did a partial harvest on it. So the top buds are ready. So I cut off those top buds. Once I removed those top buds, the light was shading some of the leaves. And believe it or not, it actually revealed green leaves underneath. So it was this mixture of purple and it was a dark
Mm.
purple. So the green looked like more of like a lighter green, like a neon green. It was just incredible. I have pictures of it and stuff like that. I'll have to send it to you. But it was
Yes.
such a beautiful plant. Like I said, it was super frosty, sticky, and the effect is just the icing on the cake. It was very narcotic effect, something I really like for an evening smoke, where it really just whacks you and has you locked into the couch for the most part. And it took away my pain. So I actually have chronic pain in my arm, and I get in my ankle sometimes. And so it takes away my pain, which is a huge key for me.
All right.
But that there is definitely a recommendation. Queen Anne's Revenge by Subcool Seeds. I think Miss Jill took over. Like I said, pick those up, hunt through. Hopefully you'll be able to find something similar to mine. Have
Yes.
better luck than me. I picked up a 10-pack recently, and I didn't find what I was looking for. But I'm going to continue to pick up 10 packs till I find what I'm looking for. That's for sure.
I'm about to write that down so I don't forget.
Yeah.
Queen Anne's Revenge, you say?
Yeah, I got to find that, and I got to cross it with the Chillo G or something. I've got to do something with it because
I
it's
got it.
just I need that back in my life.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. No, I know fucking dude, Subcool made a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of takeaways when it comes to breeding from him. He'd be on YouTube, just so much information. Yeah, he was one of the ones I heard about pollinating around day 28 of flower, and ever since then I've been doing it around that, and I've been getting a good yield of seeds due to that,
Yep.
it's
dude.
tough to really pinpoint the best time when to pollinate, but yeah.
Yeah, no.
Subcool
Yeah.
he was really knowledgeable, really good dude, and everything I've grown out of him is incredible. Kind of like reminds me of Square One Genetics. You know, it's like similar quality, similar bag appeal, similar
Yeah.
frostiness, similar denseness, just throughout the whole plant, every single pheno. So
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hey, broke the cover. Text him. Okay. Sorry. Hell yeah, bro. I was just reading a comment.
reading some
Sorry about that.
comments there in the
Yeah.
chat.
Yeah, man. If you want, man, well, we got 5 minutes left. You want to shout anybody out? Shout yourself out?
Shout out to the 75 people watching this, man. Shout out to you, dude. That's
Yeah,
really
dude.
cool. It's a good little crew here. Yeah, I mean, if somebody doesn't know where to find me, you can find me. Just search Mr. Grow It on YouTube. I have a couple different channels. I have a main channel where I show my garden, and I also have Garden Talk with Mr. Grow It channel. That's where my podcast is on. I'm also on all different podcast platforms. From the Stash, search that. There's a From the Stash podcast. There's a From the Stash Uncensored. That's also on all podcast platforms, MrGrowIt.com. And then I'm on the other social media platforms like X and Instagram at Mr. Grow It. Or Instagram, it's actually at Mr.Growit because there's so many scammers on there. Just be careful. I only have one Instagram. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me. And dude, I appreciate you having me on today. This is a fun little chat, dude.
Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. Hopefully we can do it again sometime and get more in depth about an actual certain subject. Have more time, you know?
For sure, man. I'm down.
Hell yeah, brother. Thank you again for coming up here. Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. That's sick, man. We actually got through all the questions. I'm just shocked, man. That's crazy. We're burning through those. Sorry.
I tried to keep it concise. I didn't want to ramble on too long, you know what I mean? I would feel bad if we didn't get through all the questions because I was sitting here flapping away.
No, man. It was 20 questions, bro. That was way too, like, I didn't even plan on asking all of those, but we actually did it. Wow. Hell yeah.
There
And we
we
still have
go.
like 2 minutes to spare? Wow, that's crazy. Killer
There we
show.
go. Efficiency.
Yeah. Well, you have a good fucking New Year, man, and thank you again for coming. If you can, we'll definitely have you back later on. Wow, I'm stumbling for words again. Sorry. Yeah,
Sounds
man.
good, man. Happy New Year to you as well.
Hell yeah, brother. Happy New Year to all you guys in the chat. Fucking awesome show. Thanks for fucking being here. Yeah. Oh, make sure to drop into the Discord. Follow along. We're doing a grow along, man. Tap in. The community's sick. We're doing a couple different things. We just started germinating. Watch the journey with us, bro. It's gonna be sick. But as always, y'all stay high.